Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is episode 123 of our show on Pegasus, public access television in Ithaca, New York, Time Warner Cable channels 13 and 97.1. Today is December 16th, 2015, and the first showing will be on Thursday, December 17th at 9 p.m. We'll show it again on Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. and on Tuesday at 8, and other times as the station manager may schedule. And you can see all my shows at my video blog, walkinthepark.tv, walkinthepark.tv. Go right on your computer or mobile device and watch our show. This time, we're going to go visit one of Ithaca's favorite waterfalls. Not the easiest one to get to, but not that hard either. We're going to go to this one. Which waterfall is that? You've probably been there, unless you have a great deal of trouble walking, in which case you might not have been there. This is Lucifer Falls in Robert H. Treman State Park, and you have to walk about a quarter mile into the Gorge in the upper end of Robert H. Treman State Park, south of Ithaca. And the trail goes right, the Gorge Trail goes right by the waterfall. That's one of the really special things about this one. Teganic Falls, you can get near the base, a couple hundred feet from the base of the falls, but you can't actually get up to them. But this one, you can go right next to the waterfall. So like those folks are doing. And pretty cool. So this picture and the next one were taken just a couple of days ago, I think on Monday. So we have this late fall here that's been so warm. The water from the Pacific, what do they call it? The El Nino is the warmest ever, I guess, and it's keeping us unseasonably warm. I don't think this trail has ever been opened this late in the season, but they're keeping it open until the ice closes it, whenever that's going to be in the next week or two. Maybe we'll have the trail open at Christmas. Would be totally unprecedented. So why do we have a Lucifer Falls? Why do we have this amazing, amazing waterfall right there in the middle of the woods? Why would it be there? Why did it happen there? Well, we're going to take a look at the larger landscape and its history to try to get some understanding of that. And first thing we have to do is go up in the air in an airplane. And this is a picture taken by local photographer Bill Hecht, who has supplied many, many photos for my shows and for the use by many other people. He's very generous with his work. But now we're going to take a look at a picture by another guy named Bill Dilger, who was an artist and a scientist. And this is a visualization of Ithaca College about 15,000 years ago or so. And you can see that these are mastodons walking across the landscape here, looking north up Cayuga Lake, which is actually much higher that time, plugged up by glacial ice. And you can see a plug of glacial ice in there as glaciers were retreating, because the whole region was covered with ice back during what they call the Pleistocene epoch, or the Ice Age, starting, they're off and on for the last 1.5 million years. There have been glacial advances from the north. We're in a interglacial phase right now. They're going to come back someday. We might slow it down with what we're doing to the planet. But all of our valleys the Finger Lakes are in were flooded with ice, and the landscape between them, the hills, was all shaved over by the ice. And the ice came down, and it reamed out ancient river valleys. Oh, by the way, this picture here, the Allegheny Plateau, is the highlands that are the southern part of the lakes that the glaciers dug the Finger Lakes in. So it's a plateau that goes down into northern Pennsylvania, covers southern New York and northern Pennsylvania. It's an ancient plateau. It's about 2,000 feet above sea level. Anyway, and this picture, by the way, is from an exhibit at the Museum of the Earth, the Paleontological Research Institution's Museum of the Earth on West Hill. So it's actually part of a video. You can see it online, or you can go up at the museum and see it in their glacial exhibit hall. This picture here was drawn by a local artist named Francis Fawcett, who did this for outdoor exhibits at New York State Parks, at Finger Lake State Parks, whom I used to work for, and I contracted her to do that. And this picture also is by her. Well, first of all, I go back to this picture of the ice in the lake, and that's a glacial lake there. Cayuga Lake, which eventually its level dropped when the ice got out of the way, but the ice did ream out these valleys that were ancient river valleys, made them deeper, sheared off the sides. And you notice in the left side of the picture here, it shows a stream coming down the slope and forming waterfalls, and maybe that would be Teganic Falls or something. So that did that all up and down the valleys, another one of Francis Fawcett's drawings. As the glacier had plowed through this ancient river valley, leaving this trough in the Allegheny Plateau, and all the streams on the side that poured into this trough were left hanging above it and formed waterfalls. And so we have so many waterfalls and gorges around Ithaca, and they dug them out. Here's another picture, visualization of it. This one's also, I think, from Museum of the Earth. So Treman Park, Buttermilk Falls State Park, they are both gorges, have gorges in them, Buttermilk Glen and Enfield Glen and Treman, that were formed by waterfalls pouring off the sides of the glacial trough. So let's take a look now. We're going to get up in the air again with Bill Hecht, and we're going to go down to Robert Treman State Park, where Lucifer Falls is located. And first, we're going to fly in from the northwest. The upper left there, the landscape in the upper left there, that is the Cayuga Inlet Valley, extending from on the left. It would be coming down from Ithaca, then heading on down south another 20 miles or so down to Spencer, New York. And in the middle of the picture, the forested ravine, that is the state park, and that is Enfield Glen, it's called, in the state park. Now, I'm going to fly around a little bit now to the western edge of the upper park. And that's, we'll get around even a little more, looking down the upper park, and there is the stream going into the gorge. Now, the upper park is relatively gentle. It's the stream bottom there is wide, and then it narrows in as we'll get in. Now, notice this is looking right in the middle there. You may be able to make out the parking lot, and the upper right of the parking lot is a little gray building, bluish gray building. That's the old mill. We'll see a picture of that later, hopefully. Might not have time to get to that. But anyway, the valley narrows in, and then you see the upper left. It gets very wooded, and there's a narrow cleft in there, and that opens up just a little farther beyond that. And that's where we're going to go into. So we'll zoom in a little more closely on that narrow cleft. That is the upper gorge. And it's not very long. It's probably less than a quarter mile long, but it is the scenic attraction, the biggest scenic attraction of the park. Not the only attraction by any means. There's fantastic other areas, but that's where Lucifer Falls is. So if you go down to the end, if you go down, well, right in the center, you see that dark ravine there. Well, pretty much at the end of that ravine in the upper left, that's where Lucifer Falls is. And this is looking from the overlook. You can go to this overlook all year long. You don't. The gorge itself will close off, but you can walk to the overlook on the South Rim Trail. But now we're going to drop down on the top of the falls. So this would be looking, well, actually, if you're looking at the falls here, just to the right of the falls in this picture, imagine you're standing there and looking back towards the other direction. Now we're looking out of the gorge, and just on the upper right in those woods out of the pictures where the previous picture was taken from an overlook there. So now we'll look a little more close. Now this is actually on the south rim looking over the top of Lucifer Falls. This picture is also taken from the top of Lucifer Falls. This picture was taken from the south rim above Lucifer Falls, so on the opposite side of the gorge from this. Okay, so it shows that the gorge, the rock gorge, ends right there very abruptly, and from there on, it's wooded. It's wooded. So let's take another look at that, back in the air again. And look, most of the gorge is not a rugged, rocky gorge in the center there, but it's a rather wider, somewhat wider, well, considerably wider, wooded gorge. And this is what it looks like from the beginning of the cliff staircase, they call it, on the opposite from the overlook that looked back to Lucifer Falls before. So this is the valley that continues down for another 1.5 miles or 2 miles from Lucifer Falls. It has some waterfalls and has some cliffs, but for the most part, it is wooded. So what is going on here? Let's go up in the air, take a look at this Google Earth picture that I made. The Lucifer Falls is right in the center, And then going to the upper left there, that is the upper gorge, very rugged. And then the stream takes a left turn going up to the right in this picture, and then another right turn and heads. And from there on down, it's mostly wooded, not big waterfalls. No more big waterfalls except at the very end where the swimming area is. So what's going on here? What is going on? Why did this happen? Clearly, there's a dramatic, rugged upper gorge there, but then it ends, and then it becomes this valley. So let's take a look at some drawings that will help explain this. So this is from an old geological paper, and on the left side here, that is the gorge, and you can kind of see from the way the drawing is done here, those very steep hash marks there. The stream is in the middle of that. There is a label on the extreme upper left there showing where Lucifer Falls is, and then the valley opens up beyond that. So the upper gorge is from Lucifer Falls all the way up to the upper left, where that flattish looking more open area, that's the upper park. Then you might be able to see that there is what they call a transect across the gorge. It says A to A, and that would be drawing a line across there. What's going on geologically? Well, it says present stream valley in the upper right there. That's the upper gorge. That's the rugged gorge. And then to the right of that is a buried gorge. And then down below, that's a buried interglacial gorge, they call it. Down below, B to B is also showing that. But we're not going to get into that part today, just the upper gorge here. So let's zoom in a little bit more. So now if you notice that it says Lucifer Falls, you can see the line going down through there that forms in the gorge. And to the right of that, you'll see there's these lines that go through the hill that show the route. That's the former route of the gorge before the last ice age. Because we've had more than, or the last ice advance, I should say. We have had more than one time the ice has come. In fact, nobody is fully sure how many times the ice has come. But this valley is wide and open because it is a very old valley. And it's been eroded out probably numerous times following the retreat of ice, which is come and gone, reamed out the Cayuga Lake Valley. And so this has been re-excavated, and nobody knows how many times. But there was a detour that occurred the last time the ice left. And that detour created the rock gorge. Okay, so the detour, let's get into there. The detour, you can see the route that comes down from the upper park there that goes right through the hill and then continues down on the bottom. Perhaps you can make that out. Well, the rugged upper gorge was a detour the stream took after the ice left, because the ice, well, the whole valley, got it here we go in. Here's the detour. The present stream valley on the right is a buried valley, because when the glaciers came through, the main valley that's so wide now and forested, that was all filled in with what they call glacial till. That was, and it still is in this section that sort of bypasses the main gorge here. And so this is a detour gorge, what they call a post-glacial gorge, whereas the one that's wide and forested is what they call a re-excavated interglacial gorge. It's kind of complicated, but it's pretty amazing. You really have two different kinds of gorges here. So once again, this is Walk in the Park, walkinthepark.tv. See all our shows. So let's go back to looking at the falls from the overlook on the south rim, and then from the overlook that's right above the falls looking towards the end of the rock gorge. Another picture, there's the trail down there in the gorge. It just ends abruptly. Now, and then looking back from above the falls where the gorge ends abruptly. Well, I think that at the end of the last ice age, our chapter of the ice age, glaciers melted out of here. The stream eroded out all the fill that had been dumped in there by the glacier into the main gorge, and eroded it all, most of it out. Still a lot of it there, but it eroded most of it out. And then the stream had been, for some reason, diverted over adjacent hillside and cut through rock instead of glacial till, instead of glacial earth. And the waterfall began right at the end of the gorge here. That's what I think, and I think others think. And so that was where the waterfall began. And since then, the waterfall has eroded back to its current location. So it was the intersection of these two sections of gorge that created Lucifer Falls and cutting back in forming this dramatic 115-foot high waterfall. So let's take a look. We're going to go down now from this overlook. This is the overlook we're at, which is looking from the South Rim Trail. On the other side of the woods there, it's only about 150 feet away. You go down the cliff staircase, which if you've been up and down it, you will remember it because it goes down and down. And if you're going down, you got to be careful you don't trip and fall because it would be nasty. If you're going up, you got to take your time unless you're in real good shape because you got to huff and puff. There's a lot of steps and it's steep. And there's a landing. Actually, you can see this landing. Look at the landing here on the right. Let's go down to that landing, a different time of year, more like this time of year, looking down the valley. So from there on down, for the most part, it's wooded, earth-sided gorge, not much exposed rock. Again, going down deep into the forest, down the cliff staircase, into the gorge, into the forest. And here, from the end of the cliff staircase, you can look back on the left there. That is the end of the rock gorge, and the waterfall would be just around the corner. But I don't have a picture of that here. And then the stream is relatively gentle from there on down. There's a couple waterfalls. Most of them are small. And this is what they call the South Rim Trail. The Gorge Trail goes on the other side of the stream. And continues on down to the lower park until it crosses another detour and forms another waterfall that makes the waterfall that's at the swimming area. So let's go back up and look at this again. Why am I having you look at this again? Anyway, just to get this idea here, we'll go to, so as you can see the detour route. It says Lucifer Falls, that's in the detour route, and then you can see those lines drawn through the hill that show the imaginary route of the buried gorge, that this little section not re-excavated, looking down on it. And notice that the waterfall comes down and takes a sharp left. We looked at that before, and then a right. So it's really a dramatic turn right there. And now we're looking at it from the east, and see you can see the rugged upper gorge coming in just left of center there. There's the waterfall, and then bam, the stream, I should say, turns to the right, looking in this direction, and then it comes straight towards us, coming towards us is going downhill. So, so what's going on there? Why does it take that turn? Well, look at those rocks. Look how they are fractured and cornered and so forth. Again, we're looking down the hill here. This was looking, of course, at the juncture of the upper rock gorge, looking down the valley in the older gorge. Here we're kind of reviewing this whole picture again. So you can see most of the gorge now going on down. So why does it take that turn? Well, let's go up to the other most photographed place in the gorge. Here, this is probably the most photographed scene in the Glen. Well, it's one of the most famous anyway, and it's very easy to get to because it's the beginning of the rock gorge. And if you look back, this is where you came from, in the upper park, in the picnic area, in the mill, and so forth. And then the rock gorge begins, and this is the beginning of the detour through the hill, through rock. But notice these rocks are all flat-sided, and then they have cracks, big vertical joints in them, or joints they call them. Those are what those vertical fractures are called, they're joints, and they're straight lines. And this section of the gorge has been excavated out along these pre-existing joints in the rock, these pre-existing fractures, and the rock carried away by the stream over time. So it quarried them out. That's said in sort of a natural quarrying by the stream. And the trail has been put through there, obviously. And so this is where the stream became entrenched at the end of the Ice Age, defined by this fracture pattern, which is sort of almost at right angles, crisscross. There's actually several different fracture patterns, or joint patterns, I should say, systems of joints, sets of joints that crisscross the region. And these fractures are caused by pressure in the rocks in their early days, hundreds of millions of years ago, maybe 200 million years ago or so, 150 million years ago. The rise and fall of the Appalachian Mountains. I wouldn't say fall, but the rise and the erosion of the Appalachian Mountains. Perhaps hydraulic pressure in the sediments. This was all ancient sedimentary rock that had been under the ocean as mud, and the pressure on this rock from geologic forces fractured it. These are not faults. There wasn't movement along these fractures, these joints, and it results. This is one of the most dramatic places to see what's called architectural jointing by geologists, and so at the bottom of the waterfall, this jointing pattern, these right angle joints or right angle fracture pattern, has determined the direction that the stream goes. And actually the whole stream, I'm not showing it you here, but the whole stream goes in a zigzag pattern through the upper gorge defined by those right angle joints. So here we are again and showing the turn of the stream into the main gorge, and then looking at the park map today. And if you can find Lucifer Falls on there, you can see that left-hand turn as well there. So now we're going to go to a short video I made, which is really nice. I was out there earlier this week and on last week, and I'm going to show you a nice video, about 2 minutes, of Lucifer Falls. Okay. It wasn't always called Lucifer Falls. Here's some pictures here. It's old Enfield Creek near Ithaca, New York. I don't know if you can see that on your screen. This is an old picture from the 1800s, old stereo photograph. There was a village up in the what's now the Upper Park called Enfield Falls. It was a little hamlet that served the agricultural community around there, and named after the waterfall, and they called it Enfield Falls back then, back in the early 1800s, when they built the first structures there, and houses and mills and post office and general store, blacksmith shop, that sort of thing. Here's a model actually done by the archaeology department at Cornell University. Professor Shireen Bauer and her students have developed a lot of archaeological work up there, which is done some other programs on. The only this shows a lot of buildings in this picture here, and there's a key to them. This exhibit's inside the mill, the old mill, one of the two only remaining structures from the hamlet of Enfield Falls. But you can see there were a number of others, which were all taken down when the state park was created in 1920. After that, in the 1920s mostly, and somewhat later as well, those buildings, all of them except for the mill and the miller's house, were taken down. But in the mid-1800s, there was a hotel there, which was actually burned down. I think around 1906 or so, it's been determined. The hotel burned, but it was from mid-1800s until then, so more than 50 years probably. It opened, and it was, of course, the attraction was the Enfield Falls. And let's see if I can find you the picture. You could admission to Glen and Grounds. So the owner of the hotel actually owned the falls, and so you could go and stay in the hotel for the weekend and go have dinner and go for a walk into the gorge and see the falls. So here's the site, the archaeological site that took 10 years to find of the hotel, but there are no pictures of it that anyone's been able to find, although we know pictures were taken. So it was a tourist attraction back in those days. And let's see what we have here. This is a picture drawn of the waterfall back then, Enfield Fall. So it was renamed Lucifer Falls to give it more of a mysterious, perhaps threatening sort of adventurous, dangerous sort of sound to it. Sometime probably, excuse me, in the 1850s. So Enfield Falls. There's been some confusion among people as to what's Enfield Fall, where was Enfield Falls, and this is one and the same. Enfield Falls and Lucifer Falls. Here's the archaeological work going on in various sites there. All right, so we'll talk more about the history of Enfield Falls and Lucifer Falls at another time. I have a whole lot more on it sometime, and I've done some other shows on the history of the park. So if you go to my blog, walkinthepark.tv, you can find more information about the park and its history. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. Let me get up to my final image here to leave you with. Oh, there's so many things I could have done. Well, here I'm going to do, let's see, and maybe I'll end with that one. And looking forward to seeing you again soon.